and welcome to PT Kids Live with me, Daniel Woods, the Director of PT Kids and a Specialist Children's Physio. Today, this episode has been recorded live as part of our input in the South Yorkshire Autism Fayre. We pick up this audio at the point where one of our specialist children's occupational therapists, called Knowles, starts talking about the type of intervention that she offers to children with autistic spectrum disorder and the type of approach that she takes to her therapy. So let's jump right in and hear the kind of things that Liz likes to do.
So interventions that we're offering. So I would go to home and I go to school. So find out what the issues are in both areas because they might be quite different. So a child who gets angry at home may not get so frustrated at school because they don't want to stand out. They don't know how to express what it is they're feeling. I do find that quite a lot. They don't understand their emotions that they're experiencing. And so one of the things that I do use is an emotions thermometer. I also use the amazing 5-point scale so that we can actually address what level of emotion or frustration they feel with particular activities. So, for instance, number one is when you're comfortable with something. In the 5-point scale, at 1, what are you comfortable with at 1? What things can you manage? What things don't upset you? What things do you feel confident that you can do by yourself? And then the children will list those things. So that's how you feel. Those are the things that you're comfortable. So that's a number 1. What things do you do that make you feel slightly anxious? Well, they might not know what slightly anxious is. What's number 5? What makes you get out of control? And then grade the children learn to grade between the 1 to 5. And then we'll work out, okay, so if that's on a number 3 and this is on a number 5, how do we work those down? How can we make that feel better? How can we make it feel like a number 1? And so so that's when I introduce strategies. So we might use things like body sock. I don't know whether you've heard of a body sock. So it's big lycra suit, and you climb inside it, and you can do activities inside it, or you can just hide in it. You can just get into it and wrap up in it and until you feel calmed down. And it might be that they need to move around in it to get that pressure from the sides of the body sock. It might be that all you need to do is to have a hug, wrap up in a blanket. A weighted blanket is a really good thing, but they are quite expensive. But if you can get a duvet, you could get a heavier weight duvet and really sort of wrap up in it. If they don't mind having a hug from a parent, having a hug from a duvet and then a parent is also a really good thing to do. So that's when they're really stressed. You could also use sensory brain breaks. So it might be that at school you could have a bag of activities, so such as a squeezy ball. So you can have a selection of activities, things that make your child feel better, things that give heavy work. So you could have therapeutic putty as well. You can stretch it out. That's a really good one for anxiety as well. And it might be that something along the lines of a fidget, something that moves, you can just sit and it has a little bit of a clicking sound, but it's actually quite calming. Of course, this would be probably more appropriate for primary school. In a secondary school setting, it would be better if the child would be able to get past, to leave the room, to go to a more safe space. Something that's quiet, something that's got low lighting, somewhere where they can calm down if the lesson becomes too challenging for them, or maybe somebody said something in the class that's upset them, or maybe they've been touched in a way that they don't like. that kind of thing, then having a safe place to disappear to. But they need a pass in high school to do that. It's really important to speak to your school Senkos to make sure that they're completely aware of what's going on, so they can get sort of things like passes, and making sure all the teachers that the child might have are completely aware of what's going on in that child's life. Even if they don't look like they present with a problem, it's really, really important that everybody knows that the messages are all getting out, so that they don't get treated differently from one teacher to the next. Even supply teachers need to know. So an email needs to go around. So it's really important to talk to, if you're in high school, you need to talk to head of year. If it's in primary school, usually there's an inclusion manager or a Senko who will coordinate everything, and you're dealing with mainly one class teacher, and it might be that somebody comes in for PE or for other activities, and they need to be made aware as well. In a primary school setting, it's probably easier for you to find a small quiet room. It might be that it's the staff room that the child is allowed to retreat to, or it might be that there's a meeting room that the child can retreat to. If you're lucky, there may be a sensory room that has soft furnishings and that sort of thing, and that would be a suitable place for the child to be able to go to. In any school setting, children who have ASD often need to move around a lot more in between doing tasks. Depends on what the task is. If it's something they find easy, some ASD children really excel at maths, but then really struggle on the English and writing front. And so English and writing, they may need more breaks. They may need other strategies in the classroom. They may need to have prompts beside them. They may need to have worksheets that are part completed. It might be that they need to have photographs of the work from the board, so that they've got a crib sheet beside them, so they're not looking up and down all the time, because that's very confusing, that's very disorientating, and they also get really embarrassed if they get it wrong. And they don't like asking for help because they don't want to look different. And so at that point, they may need to then have a little break out of the classroom. They may need to go on and do a chore for the teacher. If they don't want to ask for help, they could have a strategy where you have a coloured card on the table beside you, red on one side, green on the other side. So to indicate to the teacher if you're okay or not. So you could have red for I need help, green for I'm fine. And that's a less obvious way. Even in primary school, I've used that strategy because children don't want the others to know that they're having a problem, or they can't express it. They actually don't know what's wrong, but they're feeling anxious. So other things you can do for anxiety is there are lots of books, Stop the Anxiety Gremlin, and also using sort of social stories to work around sort of issues with sort of managing transitions and that sort of thing. So going from one activity to another, if that sort of thing makes your child anxious. So maybe getting ready for school in the morning or going from class to class, they might need a bit of preparation. You need some strategies to move from one state to another. And it might be that you need to have something like a visual program in order to do that. So it might be that you use Now and Next. It has to be sort of intellectual based level for that child. So you don't want the child to think that you think they don't understand or that they're young, because quite a lot of these children are quite bright. And you don't want them to feel sort of treated like they're younger than their years. So having an agreed program with the child. So let's work out what would help you to move on. What should we use? Do you want pictures? Do you want words? Something to take them from stage to stage. So with younger children, you could use visuals. You can use, I don't know whether you've heard of PECS cards. Yeah, so PECS cards are quite good, particularly for emotions, or if you're doing a visual timetable, so for the whole week, you could, so that they know what's happening, you could say, right, on a Monday, you're always going to have a swimming lesson after school, so you can always have your swimming lesson there. And if you're doing something different on a Saturday, and it's always on a Saturday, you can have that set out. They're always going to go to school Monday through Friday. If they at school need to know that they're going to do this activity and then it's home time now and next, if going home is an important part of their day, making sure they're aware of what's coming next. So it might be a way of helping them to relax into the activity, because they know it'll come to an end and then they're going to go home. In terms of things like handwriting, quite often that's a real struggle for children with ASD, hypermobility, that kind of thing, dyspraxia. And it's important to make sure that those children reach their potential, really important. So it's about finding perhaps an alternative way of doing it, something that they're happy with. Has to be something that they're happy with. You can't inflict something on them. They need choice, but they need a choice of two, not a choice of seven. You know, it's like which one of these two, and both of them work for you, you know, but one of them will work for the child. So they choose one thing, they feel in control of the decision. And it might be that they use an iPad or a laptop for doing longer pieces of work, or it might be that they feel better talking and actually somebody writing it for them. And if that's the way that the children can get to their potential, then that's really, really important that the school is encouraged to allow that to happen. So it's important, if they're going to use a scribe, it's important for them to practice, because scribing is a skill in itself, but actually to have opportunities every week to be able to do that. If they're going to use typing, they need to have typing lessons, and it needs to be something that's going to motivate them, because if it's boring, they're going to completely disengage from that. If they feel it's not going to teach them something, or they get something out of it, probably nothing too long either. So if it's quite a short activity, it works much better. And then use now and next. You say, we're going to do the typing now, and then we'll do something like we'll go for a walk. So have a movement break afterwards, so that they know that something good is coming next. One of the things that I've been using with children in the home to help them calm down and to learn how to calm down is a doorway swing, or a swing that's suspended from the ceiling. Use a hammock swing, and they work you can use it in two ways actually. So you can use it for children who are seeking mobility, movement. They want movement. They're very energetic. They're the sort of children who are climbing the furniture, climbing on the windowsills. They're just busy all the time. The swing is used in a linear direction, so it's only swinging forwards and backwards. And to calm them down, they're just going to get inside it. They really get a big hug from it. There's different kinds of hammock swings you can get. There's the solid swings that you'll see advertised on Amazon and places like lots of sensory suppliers will sell the solid swings, and they are good, but you have to be careful because some of them can be quite small. You don't always know what you're getting. Some of them are like a teepee, and they're really wide based, but they don't give the children a hug. So they'll give you a movement, and those really are meant for rotation and that sort of thing. But for calming, you want linear movement. So you want it to be forwards and backwards, very routine, and it's very rhythmic. And the children really calm down in there, and they can get right in, they can pull their legs in. They might use cushions in there as well. I quite prefer a net swing because the net expands. So you can really get inside it, and you can put blankets in. Because it's netting, it widens. The lycra that only stretches one way really, so you can get quite a shallow front to back, and it stretches long ways instead. I want it to stretch width ways, so you can get a child in, they can lie in it, and you can work on their tummy as well. So you can use it as an activity as well, an organising activity. So one of the things that I might do in sitting, so if they're sitting, if they can it's important for them to put their feet on the floor and push off the floor, but they've got their hands free because they're really enclosed in the swing, and you can do like a beanbag or a ball throwing and catching activity, and it's quite organising. It's very good for focus and attention, because you have to judge speed and distance. It's a very good thing for spatial awareness and visual motor. So gets them going, and then they can roll over onto their tummies and they can crawl around on the floor. I've got one little boy who he has it in his bedroom, and he has it really low to the floor, and he tips his Lego out all over the floor, and then he crawls around he uses his hands to progress around the floor to find the bits that he's after to build, and it's all spread out, and it's great. It works, and that's how he likes it. That's how he wants to use that one. But he also has another swing in the middle of his living room, and he swings in there to his heart's content. He used to have a mad sort of half an hour in an evening after school. He used to come home and he'd shut the door and he'd just zoom around, climb all over the furniture. But actually, now he gets in the swing and he'll push himself off the walls. It's quite a big movement. It's tall, long ceilings, but it works really well. And by the time it's tea time, he's really calmed down. So the stresses of the day at school are gone. So quite often you'll find that children come home and they've had a very sort of quiet day at school, and they come home and then they have everything goes wrong. Everything's wrong. They've had a really bad day, and you get a whole list of the things that have gone wrong that day. One of the things that I use in schools is wobble stools, because the children can move around on it. It means that they don't have to keep getting up and down. It means that they can adjust their position. It means that you could usually be at the right height for the table. So it gives them that vestibular feedback to sit at the table. It also gives them good posture. And it's very calming and organising. So that's another good thing. And you can use them at home, you know, for gaming. So if you've got an ASD young boy, it's likely that they're going to be gaming and playing on computer games. So using good seating and moving seating is a really good idea. They can also use a gym ball to bounce on. They can roll over a gym ball on their tummies. And you can sort of pat them down. That's lots of proprioceptive sort of feedback for them. That's a really good thing to use when they're having a stressful time as well. There's no one way that the children react. It's very individual. Every child with sensory processing problems, they all have a different profile. So you can't treat one like the other. It just doesn't work. You really have to work out what the motivation is for the child. That's the most important thing. What motivates them to want to participate? Participate's a really big word in this sort of day and age. Children need to participate in activities of daily living, and they need to participate at school, and they need to participate in the community to become a successful adult. at the end of the day, you want them to be happy and relaxed. As parents, we want our children to be happy and relaxed in their own skin. And it's not wrong that they're neurodiverse. They are neurodiverse. It's about managing it and for them to accept who they are and to manage their symptoms. The more you do make them go through a difficult activity, it doesn't make it easier for them. Just doing it over and over again, because that difficulty doesn't change. It doesn't change how they feel. So what you have to do is you look at the activity and work out why it is, and then give them the strategies to actually perform that activity. And if they feel anxious, they've got a strategy to manage it. So there are lots and lots of strategies out there for these children. And my kind of ethos really is to work out what a child's perception, sort of preferences are, and work out what their individual challenges are and what their motivations are, so that then we can address it together. It hasn't got to be something that's projected onto them from somebody else. They have to be the centre of the decision making. I hope that's been useful.
Well, that was brilliant, Liz. There's absolutely loads of different ideas there. I've been making some notes as you've been going along, and what I picked up on there was I thought was really interesting was all the different standardised assessments that you can do.
Absolutely.
To help pick out the different areas of what each individual's child's needs are. Yeah. And then there's a few really interesting tips. I like the idea of using the body sock and heavy work to help manage sensory processing. And I love the idea of the swing. I think I probably need one of those for myself. I think we
all need one of those swings. I think it's a really great thing to do.
That's great. And I also like when you talked about planning a child's activities, providing structure and then making it quite visual, so it makes it a little bit easier for them to understand.
Absolutely.
Really
Absolutely.
And I think probably overriding all of that is when you talked about how it's each individual child is different, and it's not necessarily a case of a one size fits all.
Oh, definitely not.
And each thing will work in the same way for each child. It's about finding out what is that's going to work for them and what their strengths are.
Absolutely.
So that's brilliant. I hope everybody's enjoyed that and maybe picked up a few little hints and tips. But if you would be interested in finding out a little bit more about the services that we offer, we'd love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us. You can drop us an email. It's office@ptkids.co.uk, or you can follow us on social media. We're at ptkidsuk. Liz covers many areas of Yorkshire, particularly in and around South Yorkshire and the Sheffield area. Liz has got a little bit of capacity to work with some new families at the moment, so we'd love to hear from anybody who might think they might like a bit of help from Liz and see if some of those strategies work for them.